How's it going? We'll see the Teams meeting in the future. All the documents we're working on in class are uploaded to the chat line. If you can go there and download them and fill them out. We're working on the integrating quotes part, which is the first file I added to the chat box. I think someone. So this whole exercise is to avoid something that's called what I call quote bombing, right? Which is like you just kind of take a quote, you're like, I have this thing, it's like in a crane, like one of those grab claw machines, right? You're like, drop it right there. It goes in the middle of the paper with like no introduction, no leading back into your own prose, right? You kind of have a quote from like, I don't know, George Bush or whatever. It says like, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Will not be fooled again, right? You want to quote that. You're like, okay, we're going to drop it right here in the middle of the paper that explains where it's from, who said it, or like what the context is, right? And so you just kind of put the quote, boom, in the middle of the sentence. It looks weird. The tense is different. The freaking pronouns are different than your own prose and the argument you're making, right? So it just looks bizarre, right? So how do we avoid that? We have to look at sifting the prose we're quoting, right, to fit as best we can the original voice and our own voice in the paper at the point we want to quote the source we're quoting, right? And so you want to make the syntax and the grammar be as natural as you can to your own words, right? Which means that sometimes you say like in a January 22nd article, the Huffington Post said that eggs are terrible, right? So said that quote, eggs are terrible, period, end quote, right? Or you could say eggs are terrible. The Huffington Post report in January 2012, right? It depends upon where it's going in your sentence and your paragraph, right, and what you want to emphasize. You could also say, eggs, said a Huffington Post report in January 2012, are terrible, right? It's a very simplistic example, right? But you can break the quote up with its citation and who said it and how it's being said, right? Anywhere along the process of it's being used in your paper. You can use the beginning, the middle, or the end of the quotation to add the reference and the context of the quote itself, right? In addition to this, you want to communicate like what you're using the quote for, right? If you're arguing in your paper that eggs are great, right? Then you would put it differently when you introduce the quote than if you're agreeing with the Huffington Post eggs are carrots, right? Like, although they're idiots, the Huffington Post said, quote, eggs are bad, right? You're like, well, however, I think eggs are great, right? You hedge it differently and introduce it differently depending on your relation to the quotation you're using, right? So this is a kind of a silly exercise to begin looking at how we can do that with a repeated example of the quotation. So on the back, right, let's look at number 1. So the idea, right, is that Doodle is a sick individual. What he's trying to communicate, our argument here, right, is that Doodle is sick. Not like sick as in he kills puppies or, he's like, serial killer or whatever. He's like got the flu, right? Not coronavirus, obviously. He doesn't say mask up, but he says sick. So he's got the flu, right? So Doodle is sick. The doctor says that he mustn't get too excited, too hot, too cold, or too tired. He must always be treated gently. So if you're integrating the quote, right, how are we going to do that? Or some brave volunteer, would you put for number 1? How would you say the idea of Doodle is sick? This quotation from the doctor is going to use in the argument. I'll write something down. So somebody's going to write down. I don't know, I'm different. Kind of right, kind of wrong. Made up, whatever. Please. It's really horribly wrong. Okay. So the doctor said, well, let's look over that, right? Yep. All right. So you said the doctor said. So the doctor said. Comma. The doctor said. I took it out. Oh, you took this out. Okay. Yep. And we got it here. One word after. So mustn't. Yeah. So you said the doctor said Doodle mustn't, or what exactly did you say? That. Brilliant work. So doctor said, comma, this is here, quote, Doodle mustn't get too hot or too excited, too hot, too cold, or too tired, and that he must, do anything with this? That he must always be treated gently. So one thing to be aware of when we're quoting stuff, right, where the pronouns change, right? Because that's what I say, when you quote bomb something, just drop it in and leave it alone, it gets weird, right? So pronouns, as we know, right, refer back to the last object or the last individual is the same gender, class, and number, meaning like objective, genitive case, right? Freaking gender of the noun, and then like plural or singular, right? That it refers to. So he would be doctor, right? Or it'd be ambiguous whether it's doctor or Doodle, right? So it could be doctor or Doodle. So the doctor said that Doodle must get too hot, excited, too hot, or excited, hot, cold, or too tired, and that he must all be treated gently. We don't know if the he is necessarily mean Doodle or the doctor here, right? So in this example, we want to put Doodle in a bracket. Because you're changing a quotation mark or words in a quotation in order to give like consistency and actually make it fit the syntax right. You want to put the word that you mean in brackets. Okay. So instead of he, to add clarity, we put Doodle. So that Doodle must be always treated gently, right? And you put he would just go out, put Doodle in brackets right there. Okay, that's a way to add it to the beginning. Did anybody else have anything different than that? Even with a slight variation. Everybody had exactly that? I seriously doubt that. Yeah, please. Anybody have anything different than either of those? Even if there's a slight variation. Nothing? You had exactly that? What'd you have? Blah, 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 blah. All right. So when explaining how to take care of Doodle. Okay. That's good. The one thing I would say is, and this is an issue with the with yours as well, right? Is like the fact that he is sick is relevant, right? So take care. Maybe Doodle's like, I don't know, a puppy, or maybe Doodle is, a 1-year-old, and so doesn't know how to take care of himself, right? But the information that he's sick is important, right? So that's just fine. You can say, maybe the argument that he's sick is important. So I'd say, like, when explaining how to take care of Doodle during his illness, or explaining how to take care of Doodle because he's sick, or whatever, right? Just add that little bit of information we're trying to convey. And it's a forced exercise, right? Like, we don't know who the hell Doodle is or what he's sick or if we care about him at all, right? So, like, the fact that it says convey the idea that Doodle's a sick individual is not, like, automatically mean we want to say that up front, right? But that's what the idea is. So I would just add that, like, when explaining how to take care of Doodle because he got the flu or whatever, right? Then exactly what you said. That's good. That's probably a good, or a better explanation of the situation than we've had so far, right? Because the situation is, obviously the doctor's not telling Doodle this, right? The doctor's not telling himself this. The doctor's telling someone who should care for Doodle, right? Because it's an explanation of what not to let happen to him or not to do, right? And so there is a third person who's not mentioned by name or by pronoun here who is being addressed, right? Who's the caretaker of Doodle. So that's important that you have what you had there at the beginning, right? But the sickness is important too. Cool. So if we do the integration with the explanation at the end, how would that look? Similar, right? But not quite the same. Someone who hasn't spoke yet, give me what you have, even if it's terrible. Feeling that was kind of impromptu a little bit, right? It works. It works. As soon as something clicks, right, we roll it, right? So yeah. So Doodle mustn't get too hot or too excited, too hot, too cold, or too tired, and that he must always be treated gently. Said Doodle's mom, comment, as she explained the doctor's. What was the last one? I can't remember. Doctor's what? Instructions? Advice. Advice. All right. I mean, so it sounds a little bit like 18th century poetry, right? Saith the raven, or quoth the raven. Saith Doodle. I mean, it makes sense to introduce the quote first and the explanation was at the end, right? However, we also don't have so maybe like St. Doodle's mom, and she explained the doctor's orders to care for him as he's sick. I guess doctor kind of infers he's sick, but like maybe what you're doing there, right? Doodle mustn't yada yada yada. Explain Doodle's mom to his brothers and sisters because he had the flu or chickenpox or whatever. But the sentiment here is good, and then the way it fits at the end is also good, right? There are other ways to do it without the whole said, right? If we could eliminate the said Doodle's mom bit, this is fine. So you get full points on a paper or test or whatever, right? But this is a bit clunky, right? Said Doodle's mom. Said the ambassador, said the whatever. How could we get rid of this like passive past construct and keep the quotation there, but have something at the end? Could have exactly right, or an add right because he is very ill. That's pretty simple, right? Jill mustn't yada 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 because he's very ill. That works. So this gives both flags, right? The reason for the quote as well as the situation, right? The mom goes away, but like, I guess you could be saying that to the nurse or to whoever, right? All right, the tricky one, the last one, the middle. Integrate with a quote in the middle. How do we do this? The middle flag, I guess, right? Speak or sing or chant or whatever you want to do.
Doctor giving evidence.
The doctor giving evidence. Oh, it's pretty bare bones, right? It's like proving he's a sick individual. So, interestingly, again, with the pronoun displacement, right? Who is he here? The doctor said he mustn't, if you want to call yada 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 yada, right? Proving he's a sick individual. Proving doodle, yes. So proving doodle, because like, I mean, it sounds kind of funny, right? That's like, this guy can't get hot, you cold, too excited. Like, man, that doctor's going sick, son of a, right? What you might be, maybe doodle's fine, the doctor's getting a jacket. Proving a doodle is a sick dude. All right. So that works, right? I mean, it has the quotation in the middle with the context explained on either side, right? And it's fine to pare the quotation down if you need to, right, to make it fit the syntax and like the language you're using beforehand, right? Anybody else have something different who has not spoken yet? I'm gonna hear from everybody before we're done here. Please. We don't have anything at the beginning, though, do we? We're putting the quote in the middle. We have something, we're sandwiching it between a little bit, right? So what we put in front of this, with that in still being there, right? To make the quotation come in the middle of our own, maybe like, after doodle got back from, I don't know, Madagascar and had malaria or whatever, right? The doctor said he must, right? Right? And then they just instruct us to get better. So yeah, so you can do something as easy as contextualize like what the situation of Doodle is. We don't know who Doodle named the character, obviously his name's freaking Doodle, right? I feel bad if anybody named their kid Doodle actually in real life. But like the context is okay, he was in Madagascar for like a Greenpeace or Peace Corps thing. He drank the water, he got malaria because he was stupid and drinking out of a river in Madagascar. You don't do that. And so the doctor says, here's what you said, Doodle, right? That works. Other folks we haven't heard from. You have a variation of this? The same thing. Y'all have Madagascar too? You Madagascar? Good work, good work. I'm glad you learned so much this semester. Y'all too? What'd y'all have? Yeah, well, both of you, but you first. Sure. Huh? You got stuff breaking up there, right? Doctor exaggerates. Maybe Doodle doesn't have malaria. Maybe he's got like sniffles and he wants to skip school. Who knows? The context is whatever you make it. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Sure. So again, with that, right? You do a good job of putting like the explanation at the end, right? And it's not like in your policy paper you have to write within the middle. There's not like in the third paragraph you have to integrate the quote in the middle. That's not actually a thing, right? But to do the exercise instructions, right, you put something before and after, right? So like, I don't know. So after the doctor was called to the ER, to the house, or to the helicopter, whatever, right? Then whatever you said. So just be aware that like you don't have to begin with a quotation in a sentence. You don't have to end with a quotation in a sentence. You can go in the middle too by putting your own words before and after it, right? Kind of basic stuff, but it helps. That's great. Like rubbing all so that's just kind of an informative exercise on how to integrate stuff in the paper. So when we use our quotation, our data points in our policy paper, right? We can say like the Brookings Institute in an article published on January 22nd, 2015 said that election fraud is running rampant when mail-in ballots are not solicited, they are distributed evenly, right? Or mail-in voting is a potential for large fraud, said the Brookings Institute in a January 15th article in 2015, right? Citation and the accreditation of the situation was after the quotation itself, right? Or before it, or you can break it up in the middle, right? You can say, is now relevant following the lawsuits filed by the President administration that, according to a Brookings Institute article, voting fraud may be a problem with non-solicited ballots, according to a report they issued on January 22nd, right? But all that knows what they're quote, right, where it came from, how you're using it, how it relates to your argument, right? Can be situated in various positions related to the quote you're citing from your source, right? And so just be aware that like you can have these different tools at your disposal to kind of vary up how your paragraphs sound, how your arguments sound. So it's not always just like, I think that marijuana should be illegal. High Times said marijuana should be illegal. I agree. Into paragraph, right? Just so we can like have more like differentiation and voice in that. All right, cool. That's the quote exercise and some applications to the policy proposal. Look now at the evidence sheets and the outline. I'll put the outline up on the big screen here in a second, so we can start. And it should be in the course docs and the assignments. So if you want to download the Word doc of the outline to your electronic device and start like transferring over the evidence sheets, I want to be here in case there's like, what the hell do you mean? Question 1, subpoint 2 on plan sheet. What the hell is that? So I can be like, oh, here's what that is. And just like clarify with anything if problems arise. That said, if you don't have at least 3 evidence sheets done, I'm happy to help direct research or populate evidence sheets or help you sort through if that's an issue. If not, then even if you have 3, you can go ahead and start transferring those to the outline. So we have like the first half of the outline more or less done. And if there's any problems that arise, I can help with that before our time is done today. Okay. I want to also just pass around these kind of talk about like claims and warrants and analysis. But earlier this semester, on that section, just like tips and tricks how we use it. Not helpful. We'll start doing the actual evidence sheets, right? If you want to skip, you can skip the first page for now if you want to, or you're taking all 6 of the freaking evidence sheets claims and putting them all under D, the preview of supporting claims. If you don't have 6 done, you can just hold that off if you want to, or you can go ahead and do it now, either way. But here's where, even if you have 2 or 3 evidence sheets done, you can begin doing right now. It's the body A for supporting claim of the outline, right? So you take questions 2 and 3 on your first evidence sheet, right? So you go first evidence sheet, to do questions 2, supporting claim, which is like what claim you're making with that evidence sheet, right? And then 3 is the data, the tables or whatever. As you'd say, here's my claim, boom, return, new line. Here's the data, copy and paste from the evidence sheet, boom, new line. And then below that, you will do as instructions say. The warrant, which is the question 4 on the evidence sheet, which is right there. Below that, right, explain the connection. So you would also add into that, if you want to, some variation of the phrasal structure, right? The information demonstrates that, right? Because you're saying, here's my claim, but you could say like, these are example quotations, right? The information claim. Right. According to Miss Love, the English teacher at Barrington High School, it was more effective to have teachers who make a lot of money teaching English classes, right? So that gives the source, the quotation then where she says, if I made $100,000 a year, I teach great English classes and I own a boat and a house, end quote, right? And then you go to the evidence or the warrant, which is the average salary of school teachers in the county school district, right, was $62,000 a year, according to this report released by the PTA of the school district, right, in 2014. And then you say, like, so the information demonstrates that. So this information demonstrates that Ms. Lovey's failing class performance, right, and her reduction of standardized testing scores every single year she's been on the job, it could be a result of the fact she's not making $100,000 because she's driving Uber and Lyft and doing DoorDash or trying to make enough money to buy a house and a boat and not spending much time grading homework or teaching students, right? And that would demonstrate that the lack of her making $100,000 is in fact meaning that she's a crappy teacher. I mean, it's not a real world example, but that's like how that would flow in the outline, right? Or we could be more serious, I suppose, and say the claim that like, I don't know, like 24% of all college graduates have $30,000 or more in student loan debt, right? Could be the evidence we're using. So we'd say, even after government granting assistance to students who are first generation college bound, the crippling burden of student loan debt makes their outcomes after completing a college degree untenable and leads them to depression and like ultimately less quality, like having a crappier life and stress about debt, right? And you quote then after that, This is backed up by the fact that as the University Department of Education published in a report, and whenever it was published, right, that over 45% of students who graduate college with a four-year degree have over $45,000 in student debt, and cannot be employed in the field their degree was related to. Like if you're a, you know, I don't know, a English professor or English major, let's say, as an undergrad, you get a bachelor's in English. Great, you can now be a barista at Starbucks, or a waiter at an all-night restaurant, or manager at Hardee's, right? There's nothing you can do with a bachelor's in English other than everything you did before you had a bachelor's in English, right? And so, like, the fact that you have that degree and if you don't want to continue on with an English degree, a master's or PhD, I mean, you're gonna have a lot of debt for that degree and not really a field you can go into in which that degree is applicable, right? So, same thing goes for like history and psychology, unless you get an advanced degree in it, right? It's not really immediately a marketable skill. So but a lot of students are like, hey, I love English, or I love psychology, or I love, you know, dance theory or contemporary art theory. And you get a degree in that. And wow, I can sound really great at cocktail parties and like work as a bank teller. Cool. And then that's a problem. Right? And so you demonstrate that, right? The information demonstrates that in spite of the alluring nature of humanities degrees and the ways they well-round you as a person, improve your quality of life, the employment outcomes are not that great if you only have a bachelor's degree in one of these fields. Oh, that's another example. And then more or less you just rinse and repeat, right? So you take the second evidence sheet, the claim, the warrant, yada, yada, on down the line. When you get down to the D, proposed solution, we can stop there. We'll go over that. It goes back to the plan sheet again, right? The detailed plan part of that. So if we get there today, if anybody gets to put your hand in the air, I'll like go over this too. But right now, I just want to kind of get the evidence sheets 1 through whatever you have transferred to the outline. So on Thursday, we can like start actually pulling out the prompts and stuff and getting the paper kind of whittled down to form and doing transitions and working on our actual grammar and prose and like making things pretty. If that's, is that understandable what I'm saying? You just put everything on the outline that you have done. If there's something you don't have done or that is a hard question to answer, like the D or the intro or whatever, that's fine. We'll do that in class on Thursday. Just get the evidence sheets transferred to the outline now and then between now and Thursday. So please come on Thursday with either printed off, which would be great, or if not printed off, that's fine, as a digital copy in a Word document, so then we can edit your outline with all your evidence sheets pasted in. Or at least as many evidence sheets as you have done pasted in. If it's 3 or 4, that's all right. Well, you can do that for Thursday. If you don't print it off, that's fine. Just have a Word doc on your computer. We can like manipulate in class. That'll be all right. If you bring a hard copy, cool. There's like 6 more letters from y'all about. I might have had maybe COVID contact. What outline? Y'all are good. Y'all are dedicated. I appreciate that. So I'll give away the whole game on Thursday when we take this little, I was like handout happy today. This little checklist sheet thing, guys, which is we'll look at the outline and like evaluate how it's doing. Once we like do the transitions and stuff down, so at the end of the class on Thursday, we'll take 10 minutes. I was hoping like here and like run this little checklist down and see like what's the problem? The problem state precisely. What's the problem status quo, right? What's the issue? Who's the stakeholder? Do you have any questions about that, right? What are the reasons, the justification for your plan? Like why do you need a plan? Why is it important, right? What are the assumptions that your plan makes? Elaboration. This is a reaction. Like, the other thing we should think like marijuana, right? Probably some people are going to be like, yeah, no, we need Jesus, not marijuana. We talking about, right? Marijuana is a gateway drug, right? Or whatever. So, like, what are the reactions? How is it accountable to your mind? Like, how is policy way? What does you like to me? But you can get it from home, and you're like, well, yeah, but weed, man, like, get stoned, you drive, you hit fire hydrants, you think you're a dog, man. Like, I don't know. Or they just watch, Friday After Next too many times. I'll respond to that in the little box there. So let's just cover what we're doing at the end of class on Thursday, so to preview. Yeah. And people who are online watching or will watch, that is the third scan I uploaded is that checklist. So you all also are responsible for turning in an outline before class via Word document to the Dropbox on the Canvas site. So I will print it off and bring it to class. We can peer workshop it without you even here and make sure you're on point, even though you're exposed to COVID. Cool. Yeah. Any questions about anything? I know there's a lot like being thrown at y'all right now. Also trying to get everything out because like the president every day is like, yeah, we're gonna close campus like really soon. Maybe not. I don't know. So we might not meet ever again. Hopefully we do. But like if any day if the COVID numbers go up to a number we don't know what it is, it's a magic number we learn that we close down again. That'd be crappy. So fingers crossed it doesn't happen. And fingers crossed we'll see y'all on Thursday. Any questions about anything, or anybody have an individual issue like I want more research, evidence sheets. My evidence sheets aren't all the way done. Can you help me find a couple sources real quick? Can you help me do the outline? Can you advise me? I'm thinking of converting to Judaism, and I'm just curious about some advice. Anything? No? Nobody's going to join ISIS or anything either. Okay, it's a time of semester where people do kind of weird things. So you never know. So I check in. So I just put there's some lectures that I pre-recorded on like evidence sheets and the policy proposal, like stock issues, the harms, inherency, plan, solvency, advantages, right? If anybody needs a refresher on that, or for some reason we're moved to remote, like before I can remind people of that, on the pages of the course, I just put the link to videos I pre-recorded about all that stuff. In case you all need to reference it at any point in time, they're all up there now. They're also just on my YouTube channel, which like is pretty nerdy and dorky, but there's mostly education lectures and videos of my daughter being a superstar. We got Halloween like 3 years ago. Like had like a little star walk thing. It's like Kennesaw State University. She like just walked up there like a boss. She's like 7. She's like, trying to do like a turn and stuff. Like, my God. She's hilarious. She has a genetic disorder, so she's like has an intellectual disability. But like she's like the most fly, like self-confident person I've ever met. Like she knows she's like gold. It's crazy. So there's that too. You can also see other videos of her doing crazy things on there, as well as the lectures. Like watch a lecture for 20 minutes and like a minute and a half video of her riding a tricycle into a wall and laughing about it repeatedly, or whatever she does.